Welcome. I'm back again, and we're now going to drop into the part where we look at a few different reflective models. Now, this is by no means an exhausted list. We're going to look at just a few. I am also going to give you a resource where you can look for some other reflective models if none of these really tick the box for you. So first up, we're going to look at the model called the Gibbs model. And we're going to have a look at what this would do for you. So the reason that we have models is to help your thought process move through from really broad ideas, going inward, and then try and figure out what that all means. And the Gibbs model does that very well. So we look at describing the event, what happened, who was there, when it happened. It's a little bit like collecting all the facts. And then from looking at like describing the event, you drop into how that felt for you. What were the feelings that were alive within you when that happened? And your feelings really are, and we're going to talk about this more when we get to the self-empathy part, but our feelings really are the gateway to understanding our own experience. So taking some time to assess or have a look at or reflect on feelings is really, really powerful. So in this model, they now look at evaluating. And this is where you're looking at what did you do and how did that work? So there's an evaluation piece. There's then an analysis piece where it's the why. Why were you there? Why did that happen? What was that all about? And so you kind of go through this process of evaluating, analysing, and then coming up with some conclusions. And then from there, you're looking at, well, what would you like to happen? What are the action steps? What can you use all this learning to then go forward and create? So it is very heavy on evaluating and analysing. It's a little bit like that it's that heavy on that end, and it is moving towards action. So it's not just about let's reflect on this, let's now take what we've reflected on and turn that into an action, something that's going to change. So another model to look at, and there's a reason I really like this one in terms of thinking about remote cross-cultural settings. It's the CAR model, context, action, result, learning. So I like this partly because it is looking at the context. So what is the context of the situation? So being remote, being cross-cultural, there's a lot that can go into this piece that can be quite powerful. What was the situation? So what happened? So this is the action of what actually took part. What is a bit like in the Gibbs model describing what happened. It's the action, what actually happened. Then from that, what was the result? Now, the emotional side of this, the connecting in with how you were feeling, isn't explicit within this model, but there is room to build it into what was the result. This happened, and the result was that I felt this, and that this happened, and that this caused that. Now, the other thing that I really, really like about the CAR model is it encourages growth mindset, because the question that we end with this is, what was the learning from this? What can I take away from this? How can I grow from this? How can I turn that from something that happened into something that I would like to happen? So what's the learning? What can I take away from this? Now, what the CAR model doesn't have is it doesn't then move into action steps. So if you want to turn this into from learning, what can I learn for myself? And then you can take that another step further and look at, well, how can I use this to inform change, which stands outside of the model. Now, the last model that I'm going to look at today is a nonviolent communication model, and this is not a reflective practice. You won't find this in a reflective practice setting model, but I do really, really like it as a model for reflective practice. I like it for a couple of reasons. One is this is a self-empathy model. So it is really about that self-awareness, building self-awareness, self-understanding. And there is an element to it that allows us to break down what are the thoughts but not the opinions. So we're pulling the judgment out of it. And it also goes into then, well, how am I going to move forward? What's the action at the end of that? I like this with a kinesthetic angle to it. So as we go through this, and that's why I've got this picture here, is we do it in connection with our own body. So by placing our hand on our head, we can say, hey, what are my thoughts about this? What happened? What are the facts? What am I thinking about it? So what really happened? So let's break that down into what actually happened? What am I thinking about it? And trying to pull out the opinions. We then drop down into, well, how am I feeling about it? So it's the same as the second step in the Gibbs model. We drop in and go, oh, how am I actually feeling about this? And it's really good to notice when it's a feeling. So I'm feeling tired, sad, scared, those kind of feeling words, and making sure that they're not actually thoughts. So I'm feeling like they did the wrong thing isn't actually a feeling. It's putting feeling, the word I'm feeling, in front of a thought. So it's really connecting in with what are the emotions, what are the sensations. So by pressing our hand on our heart, that's a reminder. We then take our hand down to our bellies and we ask, what was I actually needing? What was the unmet need behind that feeling? So, for example, if I was feeling scared, then the need that was not being met might be that I had a need to feel safe, or I need to have power in my world. So it's dropping it down to looking at what is the unmet need that the feeling is pointing towards. Now, this is such a powerful place to not only build an understanding of what the feelings are about, but also then as we move into requests, and requests kinesthetically, we're just placing our hands in front of us and opening them up. What is it that I can request in order to have that need met? So let's say it's a feeling of not feeling, of feeling scared, and the unmet need is safety. So the request can then be about having your need for safety to be met. And it makes it a really powerful request if it's coming from a place of need. The thing to notice here is that request, it is a request, it isn't a demand, because there's a whole lot around that, but it's so that you are not being, you're not putting somebody into a corner, and then you're requiring on a yes or no. You're starting a conversation by setting it up as a request. Now, those requests, especially within a remote location, you can have those requests met from a number of places. So you can have a request. So say the request, the unmet need is around safety, and you have a request to have that need for safety met. You can make a request of yourself. So how can I meet that need in myself to be safe? So that could be having some better boundaries, being able to say no to unsafe situations. It can be around that kind of thing. It's not that the buck stops and ends with you. It's that you can make a request of yourself first. within a remote organization, you can make that request of your team. If you're in a classroom, you can make the request of the class. You can then make the request to your school or to your organization to have that need for your safety to be met. So say, for example, you went out in a Toyota, you had a flat tire, you went to change the tire and all the equipment wasn't there in order, like you didn't have the jack, for example. So that is no longer safe. So the request that you can be making is to make sure that the recovery kits are double checked in all the vehicles, and that can be a request to have your safety met. So that can be, say, like on a school or an organizational level. And there can be requests to your community. They can also be requests in terms of land and spirit, which is a little bit different, and we can go into them deeper if you like to work with me. But that's sort of where you can look at a number of different ways to have your needs met in that action sense. Okay, let's put this all together. So it's really important to choose a reflective model that works for you. So that will be based on the way that you think, the way that you learn, the process that you like going through. So you can choose a reflective model. You can choose one of the 3 that we've talked about today, and there are so many. So there's going to be ones that are going to work better for you than will work for other people. So choose one that feels really right for you. Then you're going to choose a method. So this can be to talk it through. You can talk it through with a psychologist, with a coach. You can talk it through with your peers. You can talk it through with your manager. You can talk it through with a good friend. Or your method might be that you really need to move when you're reflecting on things. So it could be that you go for a run and you go through. You could go for a run and do that NVC model of reflective practice. You don't even have to actually touch your head, but you could be running along, go, okay, yep, so what am I thinking about this? So from now until when I hit that tree up in the distance, I'm going to reflect on what happened. Okay, so from this tree to that bend up in the road with that clump of spinifex up there, I am going to reflect on how I'm actually feeling about that. What are the feelings that are in me? And then beyond, so you could do it as a movement practice. You could do it talking and running at the same time. So I want you to think about what is going to be the best process, the best method for you. It could be stream of consciousness writing. If you're a very solo person and you don't want to talk it through with someone else, you could get out a pen and you could start it by saying, say you were using the Gibbs model, this is what happened, and then just start writing and writing and writing and writing until you feel like you've completed that part. This is what happened, and this is how I'm feeling. This is how I'm feeling. You write that, and then you keep on going. And so you can walk through any model with a writing process. If you're using stream of consciousness writing, I like to not censor, so you just write and write and write, and you can just let yourself write rubbish. Don't worry about what's going down on the page and go back. Just let it keep on flowing. Keep the pen moving. So that's the other way to kind of keep it going. Don't stop and think, just let the pen keep on moving and keep on letting it out. So pick a method that works for you. Now, the last part here that I really like to put into place is to choose a support option. So this is to make sure that you actually do reflective practice. So it can be that you have a peer that you connect with, and at the end of each week you connect with each other and go, hey, Is there anything that you need to do some reflective practice on? It can be a reminder in your phone. It can be blocking out time in your calendar. It can be, if you're running this as a manager, having time that's set up within every staff meeting. Okay, for the next 15 minutes, go and do your reflective practice, so that you are bringing in a supportive way to make sure that there is actually the time and space for this to happen. Okay, so please reach out to me via email if you have any questions. I'm very, very happy to answer questions over email around this. So I do have a program that is around supporting you and your team to build a strong reflective practice. And this is where you, either as a school or or a team, as an organization, that you have development workshops, that you have coach sessions that are really about supporting reflective practice, that you have access to a lifetime library of resources, and that you have a personalized, you get that, that biology piece that we were talking about early on. So if that is something that you would like to be part of, please check out these two web pages, whether you're a school or an organization. And yeah, if you'd really like to commit to building a strong reflective practice in your team, look at those programs. If they're not a fit for you, your school and your team, for what you need, but you do feel like you'd like some support, please reach out. Really happy to work with you to create the right way and the right practice for you and your team to be able to stay okay and keep on bringing the amazing things that you do to the community, to the place where you are, where you work. Wonderful. So this is me. This is my email. Thank you so much for joining me, and good luck in building your reflective practice and to continuing to support yourself to stay okay.